Deadly Tarantula Girl, coming to you from the Summer 2019 Texas Reptile Expo. I am here with the infamous Jeff Adams. He is the organizer of Snake Days, which has been taking place the last few years in Sanderson, Texas, although you guys have moved this year to Alpine.
We will be in Alpine this year for a 1 year.
So I'm trying to think. It seems like I only became aware of Snake Days maybe 4 or 5 years ago. Is it that new?
It is. This is going to be our 8th year, I believe, right?
Oh,
I think
wow.
2012.
Okay,
yeah, 2012,
so, right.
7th year, yeah.
Wow. So for 7 years I've planned to go and not made it. So maybe this is the year.
This could be the year.
So what dates are you going to have Snake Days this year?
It will be August 2nd through the 4th.
Back to work. Okay, I'm still going to try to come.
Which is a weekend. It's not that far.
That's a weekend, of course. So
Yeah.
I'll just tell my principal, sorry, I've got plans. I won't be there the first day of school.
Friday, Saturday. No, you make it back Friday,
I'll
Saturday,
say Jeff
Sunday.
Adams said.
You'll be about 12 hours.
12 hours.
Probably,
All right.
probably somewhere in
There
there.
we go. So tell us a little bit about Snake Days and what you guys do while you play around up there all the time.
Well, Snake Days is a conglomeration, 3 days. Friday, we kick it off in the afternoon, and we have a roundtable discussion, current topics, a lot of political topics in the herping world, different things. We've been working here for several years of trying to work on getting indigos and lyre snakes off of the protected list, but some other things on the list that are...
So tell us about that.
There's a lot of indigos and stuff, and the way the indigos were put on the list was kind of crazy to begin with. The lyre snake is kind of protected. Most of its habitat is in parks, so there's no real pressure on it. So there's certain things that are on the list that don't need to be. Getting them off the list kind of helps. You know, Dave Barker wrote the book Invisible Ark.
Yes, of course. We'll link that book in the description box.
And it kind of lays it out very well, where a lot of species, subspecies, and so forth have been saved from captive breeding. You know,
Right,
you look at
exactly.
crested geckos, bearded dragons, all of that. So
Saved as a result of captive breeding.
Yes.
Because you have a lot of people which form a giant group which are ultimately taking their own private funds, time, energy to individually breed this species and ultimately reproduce them on a large scale.
and a lot of information comes out of that. So we learned a lot more of the habits of animals, feeding habits, breeding habits. All of that has come from a lot of captive environments, whether that's from the zoo in a professional setting or just the average Joe herper has figured these things out.
And you know, a lot of those subtle nuances that you learn actually comes from the private, small-time individual keeper who's kind of hanging out with their animals every day and just watching them.
Right. Observing their traits and different things that they do. So a lot of information is also obtained that has been used scientifically out of that. Saturday is all-day lectures, so we bring in people. We've had people, Dr. Harry Green, he's come in several times. Dr. Chris Parkinson's come in. Travis LeDuc, who's local at UT. Dr. Campbell, Jonathan Campbell's been a big one. So we've had some very big name people come in, donate their time, do lectures. Any kids are free. Their meal is not covered, but anything they want to do at the event, as far as sitting into lectures, that's all free. It allows some of the university, high school kids, different things like that. We record a lot of data. We work with different universities and the state of Texas for recording data. Before Snake Days, they would get 2 to 4 data points a year submitted to the state. Since Snake Days, and we've implemented iNaturalist, we're probably pushing 20,000.
So what is that? Tell us about that.
It allows a person to be out there to take a smartphone, whether it's Android or iPhone, snap a photo. It'll geo-reference that spot, date, time stamp, the whole 9 yards, and what have you. And in doing so, it's tied into with Texas A&M, University of Texas in Austin, and Texas Parks and Wildlife.
So it leaves a factual, statistical data point on the location, the time, the place, the species?
Yes, and it also allows the person to record that information. So we encourage road kills too. So there's been different studies with that kind of track mortality rates along certain areas. So you get an idea of vehicle predation and stuff like that. Right, because that's everywhere in our country becomes more fragmented, those things become relevant. And then you never know when that's the last rat snake you'll ever see in an area, whatever. We don't know that, so it allows that information to be there. It's always nice to have hecklers, right? You always get those guys.
Yeah.
And so
the peanut gallery.
Exactly. So there's a lot of things go with that. We do live music with Mark Heinrich.
I love him.
So Mark comes in every year.
I've got some of his CDs on my table.
Yeah, Mark comes in every year and plays. I think he's missed 1 year. I talked to him the other day, so he'll be coming in and singing his reptile and amphibian songs and so forth. We do a silent auction, and it's usually a very large silent auction.
Cool.
A lot of stuff. And then we have a catered meal. So we bring in a caterer, we feed everybody, and what have you. And then we're out every night herping. We have a fake snake contest, so we put out a series of snakes with prizes to it. If you find a fake snake, we do that. We also have an iNaturalist project, so the people that find the most species, the person that finds the most total number of deals, and then we also, because we wanted to include everything, is also the most animals, period.
Oh, cool.
So, and we have prizes. Stoney donates prizes every year for that. Everyone kind of comes together. Bonnie helps out. She donates table space for it to sell t-shirts. Bob Ashley and Eco, they donate the t-shirts every year.
Oh, nice.
Dana also sends a lot of stuff that we use for prizes and auction items. So everyone comes together in a non-fighting environment. We always say, we may not all like each other, but we can come together for 3 days.
Yeah.
And we can all get along for 3 days. If we can't, we're doomed.
Support each other in the community, ultimately for the well-being of the hobby.
Yes, and we've helped with different things from the Venom Lab at Texas A&M. We supply them with animals. They normally will send a list of animals they need, and we supply those. We did a lot with the University of UCF in Florida, so the University of Central Florida, with Dr. Jason Strickland on the Venom Evolution Project. We supplied them over a 2-year time period about 100 animals they needed. That included roadkills and stuff. So I don't want people to panic. Oh my God, they're out there, took all these animals.
Right,
There's a lot of roadkills went into that, and it was not just the Venom Evolution. It was also a project on glossies and some other stuff. Those were all roadkills that, as people picked them up, they were included into that. So we help assist a lot of the universities with information.
So what do you know about the yellow anaconda ban that just went in Florida?
I don't. I have not followed that one. More than likely, if it came out of Florida, it's probably illegal if they ban it. Just knowing how Florida does.
Yes. And so here's the deal from what I know, and I'm getting educated about it because I was contacted by people in the state who are wanting me to see what I can do to help them. Ultimately, they put it in secretly overnight. They didn't follow the proper protocol, and now suddenly yellow anaconda are illegal, not just to import, not just to transport, to own. Suddenly.
Yeah, and that's very hard to make a law retroactive that bans something because you always have pre-ban on that. So that's going to really test the limits on that law. And I'm presuming, just knowing Florida, let me guess, it's a Lacey Act? Did they make it a Lacey Act?
I believe that it is tied in.
Even after they got slapped so good, and
I believe that it is
at the Supreme Court level. Yeah, and that's why I say that wouldn't surprise me to see it illegal, because that's what Florida loves to do, and they really challenge herpers. Unfortunately, for the most part, we are very disorganized as a group, and so it makes it very easy for these government agencies to pick us off. We have got to come together much better as a group, and so I hear this all the time. So people that have anacondas, they're worried about it and they do it. And someone who's breeding a bearded dragon, I don't care, I don't keep anacondas, I only do bearded dragons. And I tell people this all the time. That's right, they come after one first, and they'll come after the...
It's a trickle-down effect.
It's trickle-down, yep. So you better care. I don't care whether you want to breed yellow anacondas or not. You don't want to give up your right to do so in the future.
Exactly, and legislators and the public and the media absolutely lump reptiles into one malicious group.
And we help with that. It's kind of like when you watch any news story, it's always a lady with curlers and fuzzy slippers that her house got hit by the tornado and it messed up her crock pot and everything. Those are the people we get on TV.
Of course.
And the same thing happens in the herping community. It seems like we get the worst person in front of a TV screen, and so we are completely lumped together as...
Well, and the few poor examples, the drunk guy who was playing with his cobras and it got loose or got bitten. those become our ambassadors, which
Yes.
is one of the intentions and goals of my channel, is to help, fight against that. I do a lot of husbandry videos, I do a lot of interviews, I do a lot of
Right.
field videos, and basically just trying to share good information and show some of the educated and responsible, even if it's not people who are university educated. If you have the experience, a lot of these people working with the animals are far more competent to diagnose a snake problem than a lot of veterinarians, because it's not their specialty.
And a lot, and that's one of the things that Snake Days did, is we brought the academic world into with the hobbyists. And one of the things that's really come out of that is, if you really want to know something about reptiles and amphibians, ask a guy that knows how to go out there and find it, breed it, and everything else. And the universities just started recognizing that, and they start bringing in different people under scientific permits to help facilitate that.
Well, and there's been a huge divide among those two populations, and I'm
Long
really
time.
glad that that gap is starting to be bridged.
It is really being bridged, and there's great people. Travis LeDuc is one. Dr. Andy Glusenkamp, who used to be our state herpetologist here, he's now working with the zoo on the horned lizard breeding and reintroduction. And a lot of those people realize that Andy can't be out everywhere, so he had
Right.
Jerry Salmon and I out trying to find some horned lizards from a specific area that he needed for breeding, for restocking. And so it allows one person to be able to do the work of 20 when you do that.
Of course.
And it helps bridge that divide. And we have very smart people in the herping world. There's, as you look around here, how many attorneys, how many doctors
Right.
are in here? There's a lot. Very intelligent people, but yet they're still not a professional in the herping world.
Exactly.
They're professional in their own field. But like you said, the ambassadors that the media goes after is the lady with the foam curlers and
Right.
the fuzzy slippers, and that is what we all believe. Those are the people that are only hit by tornadoes.
Yeah.
And that's what ends up happening.
It's a challenge. It's a challenge to fight against the stereotypes. It's a challenge to fight against, reptiles have been vilified historically through a number of cultures.
Right.
You
Right.
know,
Oh,
it's-
biblical. Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Right.
starting back. Yeah. I
Right.
mean,
All the folklore stories all
Yes.
have to do with the serpent and this and that, and it seems like the only thing we got good out of that was liquor, right? The fire water and everything. But no, that's exactly right. And so it's instilled into people, and it's not until these new generations coming up and we're changing that. I look at my mom and so forth, and my mom grew up hating snakes, and she will never change. Not going to happen. She's terrified, and that's how she was brought up, because everybody was chased by a wild pack of water moccasins. You hear the same story. And so they're terrified, and you try to tell them, well, there's no water moccasins in this area, but yet you cannot tell them that.
It
Oh no, they were
happened.
chased. Right.
In their own mind, it's
happened.
factual,
It's,
truth.
exactly right. Yep. And so.
Well, and that fear is perpetuated, so obviously we need to combat that. Luckily, we have a platform with technology now, that there are a lot of inquisitive minds just wandering around aimlessly.
Well, and just look out here. As you look out here, this is my granddaughter. She's here hanging out, and so we have all these kids. Avery, come here. So this is our next generation. This is what makes a difference when you bring family. Come here. When you bring family to come to these things, this is our next education.
Awesome.
We're educating her. So she, whether she likes reptiles and amphibians and wants to do anything with it in the future is up to her, but she doesn't have the fear of it.
Exactly.
It has not been instilled in her.
And she is going to have the knowledge to make an informed decision on whether or not she likes reptiles, rather than based on fallacy and stereotype.
Exactly. Go play. I'll be out in just a minute.
Thank you, sweetheart.
But you look out here, and there's several of them. There's a group of kids, and when you come through here, you look at the families, and not all these people are here to purchase anything. A lot of these people come through here just asking questions.
Yeah,
a lot of people don't
exactly.
even purchase anything.
Right.
They come here to learn, and it's usually the parents being drugged by the kid, which I love to see.
Yes.
That happened 3 times today that I can count, where they were just coming by because a child loves snakes. They got a book or something like that. The parents weren't gonna break down and get a snake or a lizard or anything yet, but they got a book, or one little boy got just a little while ago got an eco hat with a what was a black-tailed rattlesnake. That's what he wanted. So he
Awesome.
didn't get any reptiles or amphibians as a pet or anything, but he got a hat.
Cool.
And he was happy with that. And sometimes they get T-shirts and stuff.
Right.
So this is the opportunity, one, for the parents to learn, and we can break that cycle of the parents instilling the fear.
Exactly.
And next, we're doing things as a family. We got the kids here, we got the family, and that's
awesome.
what we've always encouraged with Snake Days too. And that was one of the reasons why to bounce in Alpine. It gives a little more, for this year, a little more family structure. So even if you're not into reptiles and amphibians, there's swimming pools, there's stores. So some of the guys can bring their wife that they normally wouldn't bring, she may not be into snakes. I know, who would marry such a person? I got it, but it happens, and so there's things for them to do there, there's stores and stuff, so it allows that, and maybe every 5 years or so we kind of talked about bouncing it around to different places so that
that's
we
a
bring
cool idea.
Well, we want to bring more of the community in. We
Right.
want a large region to understand what's happening snake-wise. I mean, we've all put a dot on a map.
So in 5 years from now, we'll start having it in Roswell for 5 years.
Maybe not, but New Mexico was working on that, and I don't know what happened. They talked to myself and Cullen Hanks when he was at TPWD about doing just that.
Well, maybe you should have come and talked to me instead.
But Bob Ashley's doing it. Bob Ashley does
He's doing it in rodeo?
Well, he's doing the Charlie Painter Bio Blitz.
Okay.
And that is, I went to the very first one. It was phenomenal. Charlie Painter's wife is sweetheart. It was a big success, and so we had New Mexican Fish and Game as well as Arizona Fish and Game participate, and it was a huge success, and it's ongoing. So if you haven't done that one,
I hadn't even heard of it.
You've got to go do the Charlie Painter Bio Blitz. It's not far from you, down in Rodeo.
Yeah, no, we drive up there.
So it's great, and Bob Ashley helps a lot of people.
He does so much.
He does a lot. He spends a lot of money helping a lot of deals, and Bob Ashley actually helped to get Snake Days going.
Well, and if you've never been to the Chiricahua Museum, which is right on the border of Arizona and New Mexico, in the rodeo portal area, it's a beautiful place.
Great Native American history there as well.
It's awesome.
It's a great place. Just a beautiful place, even if you're not into reptiles. It's just a great place to go hang out, go into the mountains, and enjoy wildlife of all types.
Definitely.
If you're a bird or whatever. So there's a lot of that, and I see the tide changing. I will have to look into the yellow anaconda. I bet you and I talk about that, because typically if it comes out of Florida, it's probably an illegal venture by their government. They're notorious for that.
So I'm looking to rally people to help combat that at this point.
And obviously USARK has already been contacted and involved.
I'm talking with them.
Right.
I'm sure they knew before I did.
Yes, and they're great. They were great the first time.
Oh, yeah.
We need more out of Florida. Floridians tend to kind of sit on their thumbs a little bit and tolerate a little bit more, and I think that's what you see. And Florida's been helped be saved tremendously by the entire populace of North America. We've all rallied, and everybody gave to USARK in one way or another to help for the legal defense. I imagine we're going to be doing this again. Unfortunately, these agencies are going to test the waters to see how much money you and I will spend. And you and I can't afford this on our own, but everybody in here, if we will all band together, now it's not just two of us fighting something. Now we're going to be tens of thousands across the country that can help fund that and really help restore that. And you don't even have to be a herper. I don't care whether you're a herper or not. As they come for these things, it's going to happen. It trickles down. I covered that on a radio show I did myself. And so they come after you today, they'll come after me tomorrow.
Oh yeah. So if you're not a member of USARK or affiliated with them, I encourage you to check out their website. They do so much. A lot of the NARBC shows, I think every single one has an auction for USARK, and there's so
Bob
much
Ashley
fun.
again.
Yeah, there's Bob Ashley and Russ Gurley and
Dave and Tracy Barker have given a lot through the years to that. So there's been a lot of people that have been big in the herping world that have done that, and that's rather important. And that was one of the things that when it first started happening, I had talked with USARK about that, because originally they were coming after lions and primates and all this other stuff, and I said we need to band together. We all need to band together, because if we throw support behind them, we can expect to get support back on future things, and that's what we need to do in the pet hobby is not just isolate ourselves to lizards here and frogs there and snakes over there.
Right.
We've all come together in reptiles and amphibians, but we need to come together all across the board on whether
totally
it's
agree.
primates, whether it's fish, whether, and of course fish. Nobody really goes much after fish, but reptiles and amphibians.
Well, they
just something.
haven't.
Not yet.
I
yet.
mean, if they're able to ban all these other animals, fish may be next.
They can. There's nothing worse than being bit by a beta. Oh man, they'll take a fingernail right off. But you're right, and it does happen, and we've got to gel together. If we do not, we just make ourselves easy targets, and we have made ourselves very, very easy targets through the years. That's where we got to change. And we can all dislike each other. We can all find problems with one another. But when it comes to these things that we like to do, it is critical that we band together. It's critical. We have got to be able to get along. These things, in the big scheme, what I always used to say, it's just a stupid snake or it's just a stupid lizard. If they can get that, what I always like to say is your First Amendment, your Second Amendment, your Fourth Amendment, none of those are safe. If they can pick us off of this, this is critical that we win this in order to protect ourselves with everything else in this world.
Well, the founding principle of our country was supposed to be freedom.
Yes.
And I feel like if I'm not hurting or endangering myself or someone else, essentially I should have a right to do it. As now, granted, like I said, there are the fools and the bad apples out there that aren't responsible. Those people should be disciplined, but not the American public as a whole.
And we have laws for those people.
Right, of course.
Right, and so that's well protected. I've always had the saying, your rights stop when they infringe on mine. As long as they don't infringe on mine, I don't care what you do. Do whatever you want to do.
Right.
I don't care what you have. Just your rights stop when they infringe on someone else's. So you do whatever you want to do. And I think that's just a good rule of thumb. You have whatever snakes you want to have. You have to do it in a responsible fashion. You have whatever gun you want. I don't care. You have to be responsible owner of each one of those. You have a lot of different tarantulas and stuff like that. So be it.
Well, and ultimately humans themselves are the most dangerous weapon, whether you have snakes, whether you have guns. I mean, humans are the most violent, destructive animal on this planet. And so obviously, be responsible, be respectful of our planet. I mean, basic principles apply to animal keeping just as they do anything. It's not the animals that are dangerous. It's the irresponsibility and the ill keeping and
which you look at snake bite statistics.
Oh yeah.
Always drunk males.
Well, and the reality is, horses injure and kill more people a year than reptiles combined.
I put a lot of that together for a show that I had done, and we had kind of looked at that. Yeah, I do too, and I looked at that. We actually had a guy killed down in Jordanton when I lived down there by a donkey.
And they're
come to find out,
that's
not all that unusual.
Exactly.
There's far more people killed by donkeys than there are snakes.
And also when they're talking about invasive exotics, blah blah blah, domestic house cats kill more native animals than reptiles.
Right.
And
no, there's an issue, and unfortunately, what we've done. We've allowed the state of Florida and U.S. Fish and Wildlife to create a huge issue. Yes, these snakes got loose in Florida, there's no doubt about it. And there different things occurred that should not have occurred. But we've had the ability to correct that, and we haven't. We're still studying this, but yet when we find an animal, they're still not killing them. They'll take blood samples and stuff. I saw that someone posted one the other day. They took blood samples from the animal. I said, cut the head off of it. Plenty of blood will come out. Get your sample then, remove it. You cannot turn a 12-foot female loose and then wonder why we have a problem. It cannot happen. And I always felt there was a big push by U.S. Fish and Wildlife to go down that road. They always wanted to have control over some of that stuff.
In order to create a crisis?
Yes, they help create they help create the crisis. So keep in mind, we're now talking about super pythons. Go back and look at some TV shows 6 years ago, and what did they say? Oh, this could create a super python. They were laying the groundwork for super python back then to say, well, these things might crossbreed and create this animal that is resistant. Dave Barker wrote a paper years ago predicting that the pythons that got loose would be hammered by freezes, which happens. Ever so many years, they get hammered by freezes. But what happens in Florida is they take certain areas and they protect that. And they say, okay, we'll put a bounty on these animals, but you can't go to these areas. Well, guess where the highest statistic numbers are? They're in those areas. Then they do studies that say, well, the pythons ate all of the mammals out of the Everglades. And they cite a study where they drove through southern Florida and says, well, we're not really seeing any raccoons driving through at night, so therefore the pythons ate them all. Well, you turn around a couple years later, there's a paper written talking about how the birds have had to start nesting a lot around alligators to protect their nests from marauders such as raccoons. Then the deer, well, the deer populations have dropped, but that was because of trying to restore some of the land lost habitat. We've been trying to restore and put more water back into the swamps and stuff, and so that's created less of an area. Of course, the Florida puma has made a huge comeback. So we have all these things that are occurring that are good things. So obviously there's no way they could have ate all the mammals because we have other papers. Yes, they are. And there's papers to contradict the original paper that was out there. And unfortunately, the problem is that those papers have already created a lot of damage. When you start reading other scientific papers, they will cite the python papers.
Well,
that's a real problem.
So I feel like there have been some published statistics that have been very taken out of context and that were truly scientifically inconclusive studies. A very small data sample. More research needs to be done, I feel like, for sure.
You know, and a lot of people may not know this. I think a lot of people do now, but you know, USGS was funded on this to study the python. You know, and so years ago when that first started happening, those animals did not need it. They just didn't need to be caught and put with transmitters. We knew what they were going to do. You take a large python and put it in a habitat that's similar where they come from, we know they're going to breed. There's nothing groundbreaking about that. They spent a lot of money studying that. It was worth a lot of money to that agency. And then of course, U.S. Fish and Wildlife enjoyed the data because now they could come after certain things and permit certain things. And keep in mind, very few things ever truly become banned. I mean, if you want to own a machine gun in this country, for God's sakes, you can own a machine gun. It takes a government permit. That's all it takes. The government will allow you, and we quite often don't use that word properly. The proper pronunciation of the word is they will permit you. 1995, you can do whatever you want to. You buy it's against the law to drive in this country, but some state agency for 1995 will give you what? A driver's license? It's a permit to break the law. And we have a lot of that here in Texas. You don't want to wear a motorcycle helmet? Not a problem. Well, there's certain things you do and we'll permit you to have it. You want to have a concealed carry? Everything is permitted. So although we banned concealed carry, did we really? So a lot of these other animals that are quote protected, what do? We get permits for it. There's permits. You want to have certain animals, there's a permit. It becomes a tax.
Well, yeah, exactly. I was just going to say, I know that a lot of people essentially believe that those bans are money-making racketeers to raise funds for the government.
And the money isn't so much in the permitting aspect of it. That drives a little bit. But what it does by outlawing something is where the money really comes in is in the criminal act. So we criminalize everything, and then we put everybody on probation and make them report. And I can't tell you how many people have had different issues, have nothing to do with drugs, but yet they have to pay for a drug test to go to probation. What in the hell does that have to do with anything? That's a money-making grab. And that's what's happened with a lot of the stuff. Once again, we've allowed that as a group. That's where we have to change. More people need to belong to USARK or other things like that. We have to change. We have to gel together. The yellow anaconda ban is definitely a huge issue. I don't care what you're raising, whether you're raising tarantulas or whether you're raising garter snakes. You better be worried about it.
Oh yeah,
better be worried about it. And we got to get more people involved, and hopefully you can do that with your show. It needs to happen.
Definitely. So for more information about snake days, about the yellow anaconda ban, and some other things that are coming up, check the description box and the link below. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Jeff.
so
You
much.
were amazing. You're an awesome guy.
Appreciate
I
it.
love coming here and seeing everybody in San Antonio. You guys are like family, and I'm so happy.
We'll
to be
appreciate
here.
you doing the show. It's important. We need to get it's a great way to get information out there.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
You.
Appreciate
Hope
it.
you guys enjoyed this one, and I'll see you soon.